Welcome
to another
early
morning
Sunday
show.
Bienvenido a otro programa mañanero dominical.
Good morning, and this is like a very good early morning to you. I think it's the earliest early morning Sunday show that's ever been done. Why? Because this week it really is daylight savings or daylight losing or whatever we call it in the fall. So we got an extra hour of sleep, everybody but me. Now last week I thought it was it, but guess what? It wasn't. My wife and I, we had a discussion about it. And I says, nah, it's next week. It's after Halloween. She goes, no, it's not. It's this week. And instead of doing what normal people do, which is ask Siri or Alexa, I just took her word on it. Now, you would think Alexa's sitting there and, recording my conversation just would have, jumped in and go, hey, listen, it's next week. But Alexa was mute on the whole point. She just recorded it and, sent it up to Communist Party or whatever. Cat's here. Cat did go outside already. It's so early. He's not even spending his time out, so he's going to be bothering us today. So, let's see. Let's just start with this. There's a download card for I Keep It Shakedown. I showed this a few weeks back, but I forgot to do it. So there that is. There, okay? This morning I'm playing the CD for the first, playing my CD player. I just bought a new receiver and I couldn't figure out how to get the CD player working. I'm looking and they give me this huge manual. This is a used receiver I just purchased. Then it has a lot of buttons. It's like, oh God, which button to pick. But you know what? I actually looked at the instructions. I figured it out. So there we go. Couple quick notes here before I go. My contest, a lot of great entries. If you haven't heard a comment from me, unless you did it yesterday, if you haven't heard a comment though, please remind me if you're watching this. Just say, hey, I posted this, and I will go back and check. I've tried to keep up with everything. I've been just had a really big week of travel. I left at 4 in the morning on Monday. I got back yesterday afternoon, Saturday afternoon. It's just kind of an exhausting week. But let me know, and a way I can make sure I'm keep up with it. And I'll do an update later. There's been many more entries than I expected, so I want to make sure I have everyone in. I will be adding extra prizes because of all the entries. I just have to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with that. Also, I just want to put out, for those of you, if you really like to see record stores and videos about record stores and even get into the history of the owner and more about it, I advise you to look at a channel, and the name of the channel is Tone Scott. Tone Scott, he's out of the LA area, and he does these documentaries on record stores. Who does that? Thing is, they're super professional, super interesting. It just really kind of gets into, he really looks at the store, but then sits and talks with the owner and goes through the history of it. Well worth checking out, Tone Scott. Please, just key in that to search. You're going to find it. I'd link it, but I can't do it. I can't figure it out on my phone. So, hey, there you go. But well worth looking at. So, my morning introduction, that was through the mountains of Puerto Rico. I was lucky enough to be able to have a little time to drive up into the mountains. And gracias mi amigos for doing my opening. I was able to meet some great friends this week. And Los Montañas de Puerto Rico, muy bonita. Favorite spot in Puerto Rico. I love going to the mountains. I think we're ready to begin. Okay, my first one. So I came home. There's a stack of records. And that doesn't happen every week, but I probably had 5 boxes. And it makes my wife really excited. Yeah. And so I pick up the first one. And I'm not expecting anything from anybody, okay? Nothing. So I open this first one up. There's a note in there. And pull it out a little more. And I pull out this album. And it was World Party Goodbye Jumbo. And James Griffiths had sent this to me. I had chills. In fact, right now, I actually have goosebumps over this. This, when we talk about Grail, what's a Grail? The Albert King, maybe to some people is Grail. They've searched a long time for it. I hadn't, so I can't call that as a Grail. This is something, it's been years and I've never seen it in vinyl. Yes, I could buy it on Discog. Yes, eBay, I'm sure. But I like to hunt and I like to search. But I've never found it, ever. And I've mentioned this several times, especially on my last one, my top 100 that can't be in the 100 because I only have it in CD. But there it is, Goodbye Jumbo World Party. And James sent this to me. He found it. He was in Leeds and he was walking around and he's checking out a couple record stores. And he went to the basement and they had a pile of records stacked on top of the albums. And on top of the pile was this. And he remembered my desire to find this and my love of this album. And he picked it up. And, I mean, wow, James Griffith, let's call it an emotional experience, because it was. I just, oh my goodness, I'm really at loss for words. This came out in 1990. For those of you that have never heard it, it's the most perfect pop album. One of the most perfect pop albums ever made, and it's truly incredible. Every track is great. There's beautiful harmonies. The licks are amazing. The amount of hooks in here. There's more hooks than Fisherman's Bait Shop. James Griffith, I absolute chills. So huge thank you. What a great way after having a long week of travel to come back and see this. Really amazing. Jeez. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. I tell you, it's an emotional album for me. Okay, so we're going to get going here. I got an old t-shirt. Look at that. I've worn this one before. My old geezer t-shirt. But I've gone through all my t-shirts finally. I've done over 150 videos. It took me to get through all my t-shirts. I have a few more I haven't shown, but I decided to not go out and buy more t-shirts just for videos, okay? I just have that many t-shirts. Let's begin. Half this is going to be on Miles Davis. I have 4 different Miles Davis albums I haven't shown, and then the other half is going to be on some of the newer stuff I bought, though this Miles Davis is all new. This came out, a lot of people have shown it, Bertha Cool. Damn, Cat, you are making it so difficult. I can't show, man. This is a beautiful album. Look at the beautiful book inside of this. Really, really incredible. Bertha Cool came out in 1950. Think about this, Miles Davis is 24 years old. This was kind of his, shall we say, kiss off to bebop. Miles was classically trained, and he went to New York City. He was at Juilliard. Now, he wasn't really doing a lot at Juilliard. He spent most of his time leaving, going down to listen to the different jazz groups and try to play with them. That's how he spent a lot of his time at Juilliard. But he was listening to bebop, and it had been around for 5 years. But he wanted to do something different. He wanted to bring back cool. And cool is actually a type of music started in the 20s by a Bix, Lester Young, and it was kind of a softer, more slower type music, and that's what he liked. He wanted to bring it back. So it's called the birth of cool, but really it's bringing back cool. And so his music, it definitely was dealt more with arrangements and much softer tones. And it ushered in the West Coast jazz. It really did. It brought West Coast jazz back. The cool. So that's what he did, and so the songs on here, they're from a variety of different recording sessions, and he used a nonette, 9 different people. I mean, you have on here, you have French horns, you have baritones being played. It's a variety of different instruments. I don't see the list of people right on. Here we go. French horn, trombone, alto sax, baritone sax, bass, drums, the tuba. It's different. When I first heard this, when it came out, I bought the CD, probably 20 some years ago, and I didn't like it because it wasn't the Miles I was used to. This is totally different. I mean, it really kind of sets it apart because he's doing a different kind of music. But he wanted to slow things down, and he thought that this bebop was just too fast. It's 5 people going. He wanted to bring back a bigger, a bigger type band to play. So he came up with Bertha Cool. There's a really good video, Vinyl Rundown. It's Greg from the Vinyl Rundown. He did a beautiful video just on the Bertha Cool, and I highly recommend you taking a look at that. It was done very, very well. Really good, really nice thing to look at. Davis, he wanted to lead a band, but he really wasn't the greatest leader, because if the band members were fighting, his whole thought was, let them figure it out themselves. Let them fight it out for themselves. I'm not getting involved. So there's always this tension that was going. Also, he just never told people what to do. To him, an idea of, I'm going to tell you what to do was like a grunt, or, just a nod. He never was verbal, very, very nonverbal. But this really started off 24 years old, 1950. The Bertha Cool, bringing back the cool music from the 20s and 30s. The next one, I found this at Plaid Room Record, and it is Cookin' with Miles Davis. I walked in, and there it was. It was just up there. This album came out in 1956. This is a second press from 1957. I know, my God, it's like the new album, but it's like, wow. At first, I wasn't going to buy it. I was thinking, there's a bunch of stuff I wanted, and I had this huge stack. But finally, I just put it back, and I bought this, along with other stuff. But I really, really wanted it. And look, it's been autographed on the back. You may not be able to see it. You probably can. Yes, someone autographed it. I'm pretty sure it's Miles Davis. I'm sure he autographed the back of this, and they did not realize it, so I'm pretty darn lucky. Cookin', this came Prestige. He was trying to get out of his Prestige contract. He wanted to play for Columbia. Columbia had offered him a great deal, but he still owed Prestige music. So him and the group went in, and in just a couple of days they recorded 31 songs. They were all first takes except for one. Everything else first time through. So the music has like this club type atmosphere to it. And some of them he did cooking, working, relaxing, steaming. They didn't spend a lot of time thinking about titles on these suckers. Come on, man, we gotta go. So Prestige took all these albums, and then they slowly released them. They worked with Columbia. That's fine. Here's what we want. And that's what they did. And so here is one of them. What a great album. This is a little more faster paced, but he has such classics on here. He does My Funny Valentine, Blues by Five, Tune Up. The band, he had Red Garland on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, Philly Joe Jones on drums, and John Coltrane on tenor sax. And Coltrane, he really was the foil to Davis. Coltrane's playing fast, throwing out notes right and left, and Davis is just, his notes are slower. And he's using phrasing while, Coltrane just blowing here and there and everywhere. Beautiful Prestige label. They plays absolutely fantastic. Really sounds great. There's a few more of the hairline lines on the album. You don't notice it. Just Absolutely beautiful. So for those of you that like the early Davis, again, this was 1956. His Prestige stuff's really good. Just has that intimate feel to it. Well worth seeking out. So this was an amazing find. I could not believe it. And next one, my record store guy got me this. It's a MoFi. Miles Davis. Fils de Kilimanjaro. It's a French word. We all know I'm screwed if I have to say anything that has a French sound to it. Miles Davis did this album actually to screw me over because he decided that we're going to put all the titles in French. And though it was a song kind of about Africa, Kilimanjaro, which is more in Tanzania, that had nothing to do with French whatsoever, Miles just said, I want to do all this in French, so he did. This is a 45 RPM recordings. And absolutely, again, one of these classic albums. This is the 5th album of his classic quintet. They did 6 of them. On here, Chick Corea plays for the first time. Herbie Hancock had been playing, but Herbie Hancock decided he got married. Isn't that happy anniversary? I'm sure maybe they are still married. And they went to Brazil, and he got sick. Well, Miles called him and says, "Hey man, we're going to play. You need to get here." And Herbie goes, "Well, I'm sick." And Miles basically said, "Well, that's too bad. You're fired." And he fired him. He brought in Chick Corea instead to play. Then there's Ron Carter. He'd been playing bass, and Ron Carter told Miles, I'd like to play something else. I'm kind of getting tired of playing bass. And Miles, well, man, I understand. Yeah, that's great. You're fired. And so they got rid of him too, and it brought in Dave Holland to play. So this is the first one really he starts to change up, and we're working with this group that's eventually going to bring him into his funk and fusion phase. That's Betty Davis on the cover. They were married only 1 year, but she was so instrumental in getting him hip again. Introduced him to people like Jimi Hendrix, to Sly Stone, which introduced him to a lot of different drugs. So she was hugely influential. Helped him with his dress to make him look super cool. Wonderful album. Again, it's 68 is when it came out. This was just such an important period for Miles in all the music that he was making. He actually worked out the arrangements of that on an African thumb piano. Isn't that interesting? So, can't go wrong with this one. Everything's in French for whatever reason. And what you hear in the background is from this album. You cannot play samples of any Miles Davis songs. Actually, you can worldwide. There's only 3 countries. So I could have done it, but the 3 countries happen to be U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico. Your videos will be blocked. Any place else, play all the Miles you want. Just don't expect us in the U.S. to hear it. My last one, Miles Davis. And this was one of these beautiful music on vinyl reissues, and this is Big Fun. Big Fun is a collection of outtakes of Columbia. It's a collection of outtakes from 1969, 1970, and 1972. Things that didn't make it onto those albums. They're put on this album. I really like this album because it's his fusion period, his funk period. And when you listen to this thing, there is this funk groove going on. He's expanded his band. He has sitars happening in here, tablas happening in here. And there's this really cool, funky groove that he just keeps going and it keeps pounding. And I am a groove kind of guy. The first song, there's 2 records, 4 sides. It makes sense, right? And each song lasts a whole side. Great Expectations, that came out of the Bitches Brew section. There's Iffy, I-F-E, could be saying that wrong. That came from his 72 band, and the other 2 came from his 1970 band. Really fun artwork. This is not an essential Miles Davis. If you don't like his fusion funk period there for the Bitches Brew, that type of music, you won't like this. And I don't buy it. This is more for those that really want to get more deeper into his catalog. It's been a favorite of mine. I really have liked this. I've had the CD for many years, like getting Miles Davis. Super happy to get that. That's my Miles finds. That caught me up on all my Miles that I've had stacked up there for a while. I just wanted to put them all together and do that. So now let's kind of blow through here because we're going, I'm going to try and go a little quicker. The Beavis Frond, Any Gas Faster. This came out in 1990. The Beavis Frond, that started in 1986. Gee whiz. Nick Sullivan, he's from Britain. Neo psychedelic music, alt music you could say, but this guy worshipped psychedelic music. His first band he made when he was in college, and he called it the Beavis Frond Museum. You could see he kind of had a thing for Beavis Frond. Then he was in a duo where he played the guitar. It was called the Odd Socks, which became the Von Trapp Family. 86 he started Beavis Frond. He still makes music to this day. This came out in 1990. He started in 86 with the Beavis Frond. This was his 6th album already. It was the first one that he went in and he did in the studio. Beavis Frond, for him, if you take like Hendrix, the Wipers, the Byrds, and put that sound together, that's what you get. I'm a huge fan of his work. His early stuff is great, so I was super excited to find this in a record store, and it was an original press. And he did this on Waranzal Records. Waranzal. Hey, who the hell knows? Great stuff.
Say that I would draw the line, and I don't recall the place or time. And if I didn't say that you're at liberty to take as much as you can from me.
Light in the Attic put this one out. This is Jim Sullivan. And Jim Sullivan's called UFO. This was done in 1970. Interesting thing about this guy is he disappeared. We don't know if he's dead, live. We really don't know. He was born in Nebraska, but they moved to San Diego, where he began to, basically he was raised out there. He was real good friends with Lee Majors and Lee Marvin. He liked people with the name Lee, it seems like. This album was recorded, actually when he recorded it, they gave it to Columbia, and Columbia said, nah, we're not liking this. So a friend of his, he had his name was Al Dibber, I believe. He had a record label, Mononic. Gee whiz. I'm struggling a little bit here. It must be because it's 2:30 in the morning. But he put it out on his own little label. Didn't do anything. Now the music, it's more kind of folk, country rock oriented, which was big at that time, right during the 1970s. Well, 72 he put out another album. Didn't do anything. By this time, guy was becoming a huge alcoholic. He was depressed. Nothing was working for him. Eventually, in 1975, he was in Nashville and decided, I'm going to go back out west. So he took Route 66. He got to New Mexico, checked into a hotel, but never stayed in it. Instead, with a bottle of vodka at his side, he went out to the desert with his car. Got out of his car, left his money, his possessions, all the albums that hadn't sold in the car, and walked away. And he's never been found, never been seen. Body not identified. They did find a body a couple of miles from where he left his car, but it wasn't him, because there's a lot of bodies out there. And so some people say he was abducted by aliens. Some say he was murdered. Some say he's still living in Mexico with Jim Morrison. I don't know. But Jim Sullivan, a man that most don't know anything about, but he made some interesting music. And I'll play you a sample. This is from Light in the Attic. So they always do a nice job with the reissues. And they have, again, nice explanation of him and his music. Real nice stuff. And the vinyl, was it special? I'm sure it was. Kind of that Coke bottle, I guess, type of vinyl. So from Light in the Attic, this was just, it was Vinyl Me Please, and I just tried it out to see what I got. It was good stuff, something different. All right, chairman of the board. I picked the chairman of the board. 1970s funk band, soul band out of Detroit, Michigan. They actually formed in 1967. They're still going, a billion different incarnations of the group. They had the hit, Just a Little More Time. Just a little more, give me just a little more time was their big hit. Sold over 1 million records and did quite well. Also, they did the first rendition, the first time Patches was ever done. Clarence Carter took that song and he got a Grammy for it, so I guess he did it a little bit better. They do like Beatles Come Together. Holland, Dozier, and Holland, when they left Motown, they formed their own record label. It's called Invictus. And this was one of the first groups they signed. And the main singer was General Johnson. Invictus. Isn't that a neat label? Never seen it before. And so everyone sings in this group, but General Johnson was the main singer and did, I would say, most of the vocals and stayed with the group the longest, but he died in 2012. Just nice, very, very nice soul music. Delphonics, the stylistics, I like better, but they had that one hit, and I love finding albums with those one hits from the 70s. So the chairman of the board, that was a fun pickup, and I'll play a sample. Final one, nothing special. It's just, it was Spanish orchestral music. And it had 3 composers, Turina, Albanese, Bala. And they were all born in the late 1800s and lived into the 1900s. It's classical with a Spanish touch, but to me it's picturesque, pastoral. It paints beautiful pictures. There's like the ritual fire dances on here, dance number 1. Music from Iberia, 3 different composers. And I really liked them. And so there's the name of the composers. I would say if you found something from any of those 3, it would be really nice music. This was beautiful. That's why I decided to show it. Not going to take time to talk about every composer, or it'll last forever. There we have it. That's this week's picks, finds, or whatever. I'm going to try to get out another number, my next top 100. I haven't even started because I was gone all last week. So if we got time, but I'm home a little more this week, so I'm kind of excited. Cat says hi, cat says bye. That's where we have it. No mice to be found. That's 3 weeks, no mice. I might be mouse free. That's what I'm hoping. He's been no help with it. Thank you so much for tuning in, coming in for this really, really early show. As soon as I get this done and posted, I'm taking a nap, so please don't bother me. My wife, she's just up there. Kind of sound like a like I was next to a lumberjack camp. There were so many Z's going on up there. Wow, couldn't sleep anymore. Oh well, that's the way it is. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate you. I appreciate you looking at my channel, subbing it, liking it, whatever. Thank you very much. Have a great day. James Griffiths, really appreciate you. Thank you.